Hello and welcome. You're watching Cricbuzz Live. My name is Tanay Tiwari and I have a serious question of this tournament. What is with this T20 World Cup 2022 and last over run chases? Even here, Netherlands ran Bangladesh really close. And something that we were also discussing at the mid-innings mark, the score of 144 may just not be enough. And Netherlands gave it their all. Their fight was very valiant. They were in the game till the last moment, despite 2 run-outs, despite everything happening in their innings. But in the end, Bangladesh winning the game by 9 runs. Netherlands could only manage 135 on the board, but they have a lot of pondering over to do. Hello and welcome. You're watching Cricbuzz Live again. My name is Tanay Tiwari. With me, Mr. Zaheer Khan, Bhattacharjya. Gentlemen, Netherlands would be thinking, Zach, that if not for those 2 run-outs, even if one of them hadn't happened, Max O'Dowd, Tom Cooper, whoever, this could have looked very different.
You spoke about the trend of the tournament.
Yeah.
You know, with the overcast conditions, there's a bit of a help for the bowlers with the new ball. I think this is going to be the trend. You've got to be watchful with the new ball. If you get a good start with the new ball, then things are only going to get easier for you. Like, you didn't really think that Netherlands is going to have that much of a chance in this game after the kind of start Taskin gave Bangladesh with those 2 wickets and then those 2 unfortunate run-outs. Yeah. So you didn't think that Netherlands will be in the game, but they managed to stay in the game thanks to Colin Ackerman. Yeah. Played a superb innings. It's just that the support which is required for a batter to go on to chase down a relatively lower total was not there. So I think, you know, that's something which Netherlands will be thinking right now. If only that we had that one more batter standing there, or if there was no run out, we could have maybe fallen onto the right side of the result. But nonetheless, I think the trend of the tournament is set. Yeah. New ball is definitely going to do something. You might see some wickets, but later on it will get easier for batters to capitalize on.
Yeah. Now, Joy, also for Bangladesh, they've won this game. They've gotten the 2 points on the board. But are they thinking that, well, this wasn't really our game for large parts? And despite us, as Zach mentioned, really denting them right at the top with the new ball and then getting those run-outs, and yet Netherlands running them so close will concern them.
Absolutely. In fact, the coaches, these are the matches where coaches get really angry at, saying that, you know, they were nothing for 4. You know, literally 0 for 2 and then, you know, 2 quick run-outs. They were like collapsed absolutely. And from there, they allowed them to get back into the game and come within 9 runs. Look, that is the big problem out there, that the fact that even with these basically Netherlands on the ropes, they couldn't finish them off. This shouldn't have been. This should have been a 25-30 run victory. This should have finished off earlier. And what we are seeing out here is the fact that basically the Bangladesh bowling allowed them to come back into the game. One of the big reasons is their spinners are not firing, because this kind of, as he was talking about, this is a place where the medium pacers are doing well. Taskin is doing well. You know, Hassan did well for them. But Shakib, who's their most potent weapon, he's not firing. Yeah. And if you look at that, just see, Shakib went for 8. Mosadek went for 14, which is why they were forced to bring Shomo Sharkar out. And if you go back to the subcontinent, Shomo Sharkar barely bowls right now. Right now, he's just an opening batsman. But given how their spinners were being treated, they were forced to come and give him 3 overs.
Yeah, you think as well that they were caught by surprise perhaps there, because Shakib, they are so used to getting their spinners back into the game and getting those wickets in the middle overs. This time around, you did get the wickets in the middle overs, but the runs kept leaking. Is that because perhaps they were caught by surprise, saying that the spinners are not working, we've got to bring the pacers back on?
That will be the case, I think. The teams who rely heavily on spinners, especially the finger spinners, might not have that kind of luxury of using them the way they've been using them in their home conditions. Like for Bangladesh, it's very easy when they're playing in your home conditions. There will be little bit of assistance for the spinners where your slow bowlers come into play and you can squeeze in those middle overs or keep building that pressure up. You know, restrict teams from taking those singles, doubles. That is something which is not going to happen here. So on a day where spin is not going to be coming into play, you got to be very smart. You got to have those answers ready. Mustafizur is definitely going to be their guy who they can bank on with the back end of the innings. But that middle phase, you'll need someone. Taskin look really good with the new ball. I think he'll continue to do so. Shakib used him 3 overs up front. So if you use your main bowler 3 overs up front, you got to find that one cog which is going to fit in perfectly in those middle overs, who can just create that kind of a scenario. Otherwise, this kind of a scenario will be regular feature for them.
Yeah.
Last 5 overs, they've gone for 50 runs, having taken so many wickets. So that is the concern. If you've not taken wickets, the set batters are in at that stage, and then they go on to score big, you kind of take it. That's the format. That's how you set the game up if you're a batting team. That's something which Bangladesh will have to figure out. Like we mentioned earlier, their bowling has looked better than their batting for sure. So they have more worries in batting for sure, but bowling still, that fine tuning is required. Still, for them to get better, they need to find that one bowler who can do that job in the middle overs.
Especially in these conditions, Joy, because the spinners won't be as effective in these conditions. I mean, this was Hobart. It's a very good batting track. The boundaries are slightly smaller. On a bigger ground, perhaps the spinners might come into play a little more. They play SCG. They play at the SCG the next game. But still, you've got to have a plan if that fails.
You have to have a plan if that fails. And see, Bangladesh traditionally has relied on finger spinners and left-arm finger spinners. They've had a glut of them. And those are not the kind of bowlers out here. What they'll be happy about though is that Taskin is getting something with the new ball. Their worry again is that who bowls with Mustafizur in the end. Certainly Shomo Sarkar is not your first option. Shomo Sarkar was there because you couldn't get the overs out of Mosaddeq. So that's the thing. They have to look at their bowling card and say that we need to, if you have to use spinners, we have to use them more in the middle overs, because we cannot expect Shomo Sarkar to give us 3 overs. In a match against Bangladesh, in a match against Netherlands, you might get away with it. Against some of the stronger sides, it's not going to happen.
It isn't going to happen, yeah. And this is the T20 World Cup. Every side tries to bring their A game onto the fore. And if you don't bring your A game, things can be troublesome. Also on the Netherlands, would they, Zach, look at this game and say there were mistakes that could have been avoided? And if we'd avoided those mistakes, things could have been very different.
For sure. There's no doubt about that. And to start with those runouts. You're losing your main batters without really bowler contributing to get that dismissal. Yeah, you can look at Bangladesh fielding and say that their energy was high. They were giving everything, whatever they have on the field. Yes, those factors were there, but those factors are always going to be there.
Correct.
When you're playing at such a stage, teams are going to bring in their A games. Teams are going to give it all, and especially when you have these in-between totals. In the huddle before you go onto the field, what does a captain speak? We are 15-20 runs short. How can you make it up? By putting in that effort in fielding. And that's what any team would try. Having taken those first 2 wickets quickly, obviously is going to get that energy up. So that's where Netherlands missed that trick. Runouts is like giving away your wicket, not by bowler getting you out. Never going to help. Tim Cooper is someone who is their main core of that batting unit, and that player lost his wicket just by run out, which was never going to be a help.
Yeah, but yeah.
Just going back exactly to that was the crucial wicket was even before that. Max got out because he comes in. The first ball, Shakib's first ball of his spell, he hits him for 6, and then the run out happens. So that swing was a huge swing because he was looking as if he was the designated attacker of Shakib, and he's got the quality of being able to hit him. That was a big blow to them. And then when they lost Cooper as well, I mean, those were the 2 hammer blows. The fact that they got close, I think the scorecard is sometimes misleading. It looks like a close game, 9 runs. It wasn't a close game really.
For major parts, yeah.
Yeah, for major parts, it wasn't really a close game. They came, but they never looked as if, okay, they're going to do the total. It wasn't like the India-Pakistan match where, fortunes were swinging in every over.
Yeah, that was. But that means Bangladesh have got their first points on the board in this group. Yes, they've registered their first points. The net run rate, they could have tried to get it better perhaps. But right now, they're on top of this points table in Super 12 Group 2. Of course, only 2 games right now. Bangladesh, India, Pakistan and Netherlands are the team that have played. But the other 2 teams will play right now. In just a bit, it's South Africa taking on Zimbabwe, and this is a very crucial game for that one man, the South African captain, Temba Bavuma, because there's been so much talk, Zach, around his role, because we spoke about this in the preview as well. They have a problem of plenty. The only problem perhaps they have, the only problem that isn't a good problem to have, is Temba Bavuma at the top, because he's not scoring runs, he's not getting them off to starts, which puts all the more pressure on Quinton de Kock. And there are question marks because you look at that. Since Bavuma came in as full-time captain, his strike rate is just 106, and that is underwhelming. If you had to give an advice to Temba Bavuma, what would it be? Because he's also leading the side. You can't let this play on your mind.
I like Temba Bavuma as a captain. He's someone who, if you look at South Africa, go back a couple of years and see how their journey has been. I think Temba Bavuma has played a huge role along with Mark Boucher as well. They kind of revived the whole South African team. In between, they had lost their way. So he has played a huge role. But I think what has affected Temba Bavuma is the fact that the local league which is coming up, and he's not been picked there. There is some story there for sure. It can affect someone's confidence, and that can translate into him performing on the field. So I think there are too many things going around there with that regard as well, which he needs to figure out. But as a leader, I've always liked him. It's not about the strike rate. It's about how you've got the team together, and their winning percentage have really gone up since the time Bavuma has been around as a leader. So considering all those things, I think there are certain things which needs to be figured out. Yes, you might have someone sitting out who is better than him right now, but he's played a part. So I think for a team to be going in the World Cup when you named him as a captain, all those things need to happen before you actually go in a tournament. Now you're in a tournament, you made that decision. It's time to back that. Good, bad, ugly, you got to just figure it out and not really have that discussion opening up. You had that time is gone. Now just focus on what you have in hand and back the individual to deliver for your team and country.
Yeah, that is true, because Temba Bavuma was really disappointed, vocally very disappointed. He said that I was very disappointed for not being picked in the SA20. But it's also a fact that he's not been able to buy a run. I mean, even in that India bilaterals, be it T20Is or ODIs, one odd game he did get a start, but those runs weren't ever coming. And he's keeping a batter like Reza Hendricks out, as Zach mentioned. And Reza Hendricks scores those big runs, so that's also added pressure then.
Yeah, but what he said is a very, very justified point. I mean, I know you're looking at this and you look at the difference, and I mean, that strike rate of 74.24 is just atrocious. But what is South Africa's record since he's become captain is a good question. I mean, look at Mike Bradley. Mike Bradley was England Test captain, average less than 30, okay, and they think they can't use him. They get rid of Mike Bradley, okay. Ian Botham becomes captain and he goes totally mad. He's their best all-rounder, but he's not fit to be captain. The team goes nowhere. They call back Bradley as captain. Bradley still does nothing very much with the bat. He has a couple of decent innings, but nothing. He would never be picked only as a player. But they go on to win. And I feel that for whatever you say, this, exactly as Zach has said, this South African team for me is one of the most dangerous teams in this tournament. They have firepower in bowling. They have amazing batting. And if Bavuma can even marshal these troops well, no matter what he does with the bat, if he can marshal these troops well, this is a semi-final team. It's a very, very good team.
Yeah. So his sometimes also what we do is we tend to discount the captaincy ability and the captaincy skills that a lot of leaders bring about to the table. But where have we seen this before? Do you have a bias for captains who may not really perform on the field but are good captains? Maybe I think Owen Morgan, KKR 2021, I don't know. I'm just wondering.
I've never heard of him.
Of all the formats, this format requires a good captain. Wow. This format requires a proactive captain. And you've seen that with this format, experienced players also have kind of revived their careers. Why? Because you have such a short time to make that decision. That's why the value of experience has gone up. It's not about now, getting the youngsters in. It's about who can handle pressure well, who can have a good decision making under pressure situation. So that's something which this format has brought on the foreground, and then that's why I've always felt that if you have a good captain, you can have a huge impact because that decision making in a short time under pressure is going to be, and the margins are so small. So because the margins are so small, the decision making even more crucial. And I think if you have a good captain, which Temba Bavuma is, I think you'll see in the tournament that he will prove his worth, provided that there is not a lot of muddle of thoughts which is going on, which has got nothing to do with what's happening in the tournament. Yeah. If you're psychologically affected by what has happened, or you feel that, oh, am I good enough? Am I not good enough? Because when someone doesn't pick you, obviously, it's going to dent your confidence. So I think that's something which Bavuma needs to put aside and just channelize his energy on the winning cause.
Yeah, it's also a fact that if there is a team that can only afford to play just one player as a captain, it is South Africa, because that's the kind of talent pool that they have. Right now, what we don't have is an update from the ground. The ICC rules, of course, stipulate that there has to be a gap of minimum 30 minutes between the game finishing and the other game starting in terms of the toss. So we will be back once the toss is done in the South Africa versus Zimbabwe game. So right now, we've got to say goodbye. Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Joy, for joining in. We'll, of course, be back super soon on Cricbuzz Live. Stay tuned.